Okay, how's everybody doing today? As you can see, I am up sometimes during the day. All my videos aren't at night. I do have a daylight video occasionally, and this is one of them. So today, as I promised, I wanted to bring on EOS Nation. My son is here. Stefan Bison is from EOS Nation. He's here. And he's going to tell us all about what it takes to be a block producer and everything there is to know about block producing. So take it away, Stephen.
All right, thanks for the introduction, and thanks for having me on your channel.
You're welcome.
Like you said, I'm part of a group. We're called EOS Nation, and this is basically 7 guys. We're all the founders, and we're all very passionate about EOS and wanted to contribute to EOS, in some way. And then we all got together. Some of us live in Ottawa, Montreal, Sherbrooke, Toronto, and we also have Dave in Texas. And so that's our team. And early in February, when there was no block producer candidates that had been announced yet, one of my friends, Denis, who is our lead engineer, proposed to me that we should run as a block producer. And immediately, I was happy to have one of my friends that I know is an excellent developer be interested in starting a project with me. I got him interested in blockchain in early over the holidays, actually, because he lost his job at Facebook due to a visa incident at the border, where he said he was programming instead of developing. And with Trump and the new very restrictive guidelines, he lost his visa and couldn't go back to work. He calls me, he's like, "Hey, Steph, you've been talking about Bitcoin and blockchain all year on Facebook. I haven't had time to really understand what is this all about." So I got him interested. He basically went through the GitHub of all the top cryptos, and he ended up on EOS, and he was like, "Steph, this project is amazing. It's open source. There's a ton of activity. I'm going all in on EOS." So he started by first purchasing, and then once we all understood more about EOS, he's the one that suggested that we should start EOS Nation as a block producer. So I was already friends with Lenny and Vincent. They were good friends with Dave, and these guys had started the EOS Nation Facebook group in August, and they've built it to over 2,000 people at this point. So that's where our brand came from. And then from there, we just decided that we would try to be as prominent as we can in building the community and trying to become an educational hub for all things EOS. So our first objective is to educate people about what is EOS. And in doing that, we hope that we're going to get our name out there, and people are going to be thankful for the time we're spending to explain all these complex features that EOS will have. And in return, we hope to get voted in as a block producer. So in EOS, the block producers, it's a delegated proof of stake system. So in proof of stake, let's say you hold 100 coins in your wallet, you can stake them to have a chance producing blocks in the proof of stake network. In the delegated proof of stake, those coins that you hold, you can vote for different groups that you want to be the block producers, because you think these groups are positive and bring exposure to EOS and contribute positively to the EOS ecosystem. Did you have any questions specifically?
Well, I've got one question.
That?
Now, you say and I've got this question about when they launch the chain, there's going to be other chains launched at the same time. And I guess it takes 15% consensus before that one chain ends up being the chain that is the EOS chain, right?
That's right. So
go ahead.
That 15% unlock, I think, is one of the most interesting features of the EOS.io software. So the way it works is that Block One, who's a private company led by Dan Larimer, they're building this EOS.io software, and they're just going to release it publicly in June. It's open source code, right? So anyone can copy it. Us as a block producer and other block producers that have been working on building the governance models, the constitution, practicing producing blocks, practicing launching test nets, etc. We've all agreed that on June 2nd, together, we're going to launch the mainnet of EOS. So we're going to use that software, and we're going to use the Genesis snapshot of June 1st. So your ERC20 tokens right now that you hold, those EOS tokens, they live on Ethereum. And on June 1st, they die on Ethereum. You cannot move them anymore. They're going to be locked there forever. So this is very important. You need to register your wallet address so that your balance that you have on ERC20 tokens gets transferred over to your new private key that you generate that's going to live on this new EOS mainnet that we're launching on June 2nd. So when we launch the mainnet, there's a process. It's going to take a few hours maybe for all the block producers to generate this launch. I don't know all the technical details. That's Denis' job. But the way I understand it is that once the mainnet is up, we're going to distribute the tokens to all those registered addresses. But these tokens are going to be frozen until 15% of the tokens vote for who they want to be as block producer. So we're going to need to wait until we have 150 million people, 150 million tokens that are activated on the EOS mainnet launch. That might take a few days. We don't know. So for a few days, until we reach that point, you cannot move your tokens. Okay. So this process can be duplicated by anyone who wants to launch an EOS sidechain. The big question is, which distribution are these sidechains going to choose to use to launch their chain? Are they going to use the Genesis token distribution of June 1st or another one like a current mainnet EOS distribution? But what we think is going to happen and what Block One hopes is going to happen is that these sidechains use the same Genesis distribution of June 1st that we're using on our mainnet. And the reason they're going to want to do that is because they need to attract 15% of the token holders to agree that their project is interesting enough to activate their tokens and to vote for a block producer on that sidechain. So you're right, there might be multiple chains launching on June 2nd, but these sidechains might launch a week after, a month after, next year. You know, it could happen at any time. So I think this is really the most exciting aspect of EOS because it's actually we're gonna have the mainnet, and then we're gonna have all these sidechains, and eventually there's gonna be inter-blockchain communication. And although you can't send your mainnet tokens to the sidechain, you can still send messages and you can still interact with applications on these sidechains. So it eventually might be a mesh of EOS networks that are all communicating together, running all these amazing applications.
And that's how they're getting the speed up into the millions of transactions per second.
Potentially.
Because the side chains can communicate with the main chain and the communication. So how do the block producers work on the side chains?
So it would be different block producers. So they would have their own set of 21 block producers. But then they can change that number because you can change anything inside the software of EOS can be voted on and changed as the community grows or as the needs differ from sidechain to sidechain. Right, so these guys are going to have their own block producers. I think maybe some block producers will be producing on more than one chain. I'm not too sure exactly how that's going to work, but I've heard that as a possibility. Probably shouldn't have even mentioned it because I don't know the details.
Well, the other question I have is I understand there's 21 block producers, and then I believe there's other block producers in the background that can be voted in at any time if one of the block producers is not, the community is not happy with. So tell me how that works.
That's right. So on EOS, there's going to be 5% inflation. Four of that 5% will go to the Worker Proposal Fund, which is a fund that anyone can apply to get funding for their project, EOS related. 1% is going to go to fund the block producers. Within that 1%, we have 0.25% that's going to be evenly distributed to the top 21 elected block producers. These top 21 block producers are the ones that are actually producing the blocks on the network. Those that are still garner good amount of votes will be standby block producers. So for example, if EOS Nation gets ranked 25th, we have our hardware up, ready to go. It's on standby. As soon as we move up to number 21, we turn on the switch, and then now we're producing blocks. So 0.25% is distributed to the top 21, and 0.75% is distributed to everyone according to their votes. So that's why it's very important for the block producers to get their names out there to get votes, because that's going to convert into income for us in the future once everything is in place.
And then probably one thing that people are thinking about, you know, they're looking at their choices for who they can vote as block producers. What would you say sets you guys apart, and you know, what kind of makes you guys different at EOS Nation?
Right, that's a good question. What we've been focusing on is really education and community engagement. So we've been compiling links on our EOS Awesome GitHub repository, which has a comprehensive list of all links related to videos about EOS, sorted by Dan Larimer or other subjects. We've also been able to build a team of ambassadors, which has been very crucial to our success so far. So we have 15 ambassadors across the world, and these are people that were motivated about EOS. They wanted to contribute, but maybe they didn't have a team around them in their city, or they needed a bit of support to do their projects. So they've applied to our ambassador program, and then we support them in hosting events in their cities. We support them by giving them presentation material, coaching, some financial. If they're renting out rooms, we help them out financially a bit as well. And these people have been really important to spreading the word of EOS Nation. So what we give them in exchange is that we try to amplify their voice. So they all have their own unique projects that they've been working on. And they're proud to say that when they're organizing meetups, now they can attach the EOS Nation brand to it, which helps them attract more people. And then it grows their network for our ambassadors. It grows our exposure for EOS Nation. And, you know, it's been a really, really good relationship so far in the 2 months that, you know, we've been working at this. Another thing that our ambassadors are very important to us is that we can translate a lot of articles into up to 8 languages now. So when we're producing interesting articles, or even if we see other blog producers producing interesting articles, you know, if we agree with the same values and we think this is going to bring good to the EOS ecosystem, you know, we're happy to use our capacity to translate these documents. And we're going to be focusing more and more on that, because we think it's important to reach all the communities around the globe, right? And that goes along with our brand of being EOS Nation, right? We don't care where you are. If you like EOS, you want to participate, great. Join our community. We're going to give you resources. We're going to help you out. People are just obviously very helpful within our Facebook groups and Telegram. We don't usually have time to answer the questions because other people get to it first, right? So it's been really good that way. And we've been hosting a lot of meetups ourselves, the founders in Montreal, Toronto, Quebec coming up, Sherbrooke coming up, Trois-Rivières. And then myself, I'm flying out to Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton next week to join up with some EOS meetup groups out there and explain to them who we are and explain what EOS is to more general blockchain meetup groups as well. And then something that we have just announced recently is that we're sending one of our founders, Yves, to Asia in a few weeks. So he's going to go out there and talk with a lot of the Asian block producer candidates that are out there, because currently there's a bit of a disconnect between the Asian block producers and the North American ones because of the language barrier of English. So some of those VPs in Asia have voiced that they feel that Block One isn't producing enough information in Mandarin or in those languages, right? And they feel that Block One is more favoring the North American block producers. But that's not really the case, but obviously Block One might not speak those languages. And then in these public Telegram chats that have been running for months now on governance, on block production, on all these aspects, these chats are all going down in English, right? And then sometimes employees from Block One are in there commenting, discussing, and it's intimidating to post in these chats because you've got all the VPs in there, probably got media monitoring these chats, Block Ones, everyone's looking at these chats. So if you post something silly or that doesn't add value, you know, you're gonna look bad, and that's gonna look bad on your group or whatever. So I feel like that's one of the reasons that a lot of the Asian VPs haven't been able to, you know, to communicate with us. So we're hoping in sending E out there that we're going to be able to build more bridges with these Asian block producers, and, you know, talk about what their projects are. We can talk about them on our social medias. They're obviously going to talk about us on theirs as well. So we think that's going to be a pretty important collaboration for EOS in general to help all the block producers come together and really work together during this mainnet launch, right? Because there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding the mainnet launch already. So that's one of the things that we're pretty excited for. That's going to be coming up in the next few weeks.
You get a question?
No.
How important do you think it is to have a geographic worldwide block producer group, or is it you think a concentration is a problem, or do you think this is something?
It's definitely something that's important to think about, and we hope that EOS token holders are going to vote in a wide range of geographical locations for these block producers. Block One has said that as well, that they hope that there's going to be a good diverse range, right? And that's why a lot of block producers are named, you know, with their city: EOS New York, EOS 42 in London, EOS Korea. All these names are regionally located, which is nice because we're going to be able to make sure that we have block producers all over the place, right? Right now, there are a lot more candidates for block producer in Asia than there are in North America, but that's just a function of the amount of people and tokens that are out there, right? So that makes sense. But we definitely hope that there's a good distribution. But really, there's no way to control that. That's up to all the token holders to vote for their VPs. So it's important to note also when you're voting that your one token, you can vote for up to 30 different block producers that you like. So if you like EOS Nation for what we're doing, you vote for us. You see other groups that are doing other things that you think are positive for the EOS ecosystem, you vote for them as well, right? Or you can just vote for EOS only. That's okay too.
Well, that's what I like about EOS, is that it's in the hands of the token holders. So the platform is owned by the people that own the token, which is unlike any other. So everyone's really happy about the ability to do that.
It really is, and that's the focus on governance, really, that Dan Larimer really spent a lot of time designing for EOS, right? Because he wants it to be controlled by a wide community, which will ensure long-term health and growth of the network.
Yeah, when you look at like an open source platform like this it really has to be community, because the software is open source, available to anybody. So what's really going to make this something that goes, it's got to be community, and it's got to be governance. It's got to be the ability for the people to vote for block producers and control, you know, their interests in the platform. So that's, you know, it's a perfect world. It's the open source world, along with the ability for human intervention to actually keep this thing, you know, in a network effect, growing and positive and all that good stuff, which is what you guys are, your community.
That's right. That's right. That's really our focus. And like you described, it's really an amazing experiment that we're all part of right now. And it really could be the start of future governance models that expands out from, let's say, a social network on EOS that has an excellent governance model, so much so that people are like, hey, we should try this model in government or in other areas, right? So there's a good quote about Dan Larimer. I don't remember exactly, but it says that if you want to build a new system, you can't just destroy the old system and then build a new one. That's just not how it works. What you do is that you build your new system gradually, and you make it so efficient and so much better than what's currently in place that eventually this old system is redundant or even worse, and then people automatically flow to the new, better, more efficient system. And then that's how you can replace, you know, an old system that you don't like with a new one that you know, with better incentive structures, basically what it comes down to in my mind.
Well, if you just go technology-wise, you end up with everybody forking off and doing something different. Whereas if you do it within the community and everybody works together, then then we continue to grow without the forking and without the side chains and all the other stuff where the rogue stuff going on. This is more, you know, everybody understanding what's going on and on, you know, everybody. If what I heard a long time ago, I heard with the EOS, it's aligned interests. Everybody has the same interest. Everybody's going in the same direction.
That's really what it is. It's about having your interest aligned. And personally, myself, I'm investing all my time now in EOS Nation. I'm doing this full time. We don't have a salary yet. You know, like we've agreed that we're gonna pay me a certain salary for the month of May if we get to revenue sometime in late June, by the time the block producers are actually getting paid, right? And this incentive, these aligned incentives were put in place by Dan Larimer. Basically, he put in a system, and then I studied it, and I got curious. I learned more, and then my friends also agreed, and more got curious, and then all of a sudden, we're a group of 7 people. 3 of us are full-time EOS Nation. 4 of us have jobs that they can't wait to leave once we get to revenue, and like we're all working together on just making EOS better, right? And then you imagine, okay, how many other groups out there are like, you know, so all these other block producers, very similar. They're all also align their incentives with helping EOS grow. And yeah, I think this month EOS is going to gain a ton of awareness. EOS Nation, we've got 20 meetups planned in the next 3 weeks or so. That's just one of the 100 and some block producer candidates that are out there. So you multiply that by all the block producer candidates. Now, granted, most other block producers aren't hosting as many meetups as we are. That's really like what we've been focused on, and which is helped by our ambassador team. But still, like all these groups are hosting meetups. All these groups are teaching programmers what EOS is all about. So awareness is really going to explode, I think, leading up to launch. And hopefully that awareness will make sure that everyone registers their wallet. We don't want people waking up on June 1st with ERC20 tokens that aren't registered and be like, what do I do now? And then we'll have to tell them, your tokens are worthless. You lost all your money. Like, it's over. June 1st, it's over. You can't do anything. So that's super important. A lot of people have expressed to Block One that they think Block One should tell people about this because Block One has a lot of weight, and when they speak or do an announcement, everyone hears about it, right? But legally, Block One has been very careful not to promote a security, not to promise that anything's going to happen with the EOS.io software, right? So that's why some people earlier in the year, a lot of people thought EOS was a scam because of that, because, you know, it's written, the disclaimer is this long. It says like, we're not going to run the network. We don't know if block producers are going to want the network. We don't know if app developers are going to want to build, right? And they just kept promising nothing basically. But they're like, but this is our plan. This is what we hope is going to happen. Right. So yeah, so it's been a really interesting journey, and it's about to, I think it's going to get pretty wild leading up to the mainnet launch. And then the mainnet launch, you know, we hope it goes down smoothly, but it's never really been done before. And we expect that there's going to be a lot of people attacking our network. We expect to be attacked on June 2nd so that we fail our launch, so that people can say, oh yes, you know, EOS is not working. Who knows, you know, there's a lot of powerful groups that have interest in making EOS fail, you know. So we're preparing for that. You know, all our technical engineers that are working on these block producer nodes and test nets and stuff, they have plans in place to launch the network. And from what I understand is that we're going to try to get as many block producers together on June 2nd that have all agreed to launch the mainnet. And so if the core, let's say, of the most known block producers, if they get attacked, we have a lot of other block producers that are on standby waiting to take their place to help launch the mainnet. If you guys have more, if you want to learn more about these technical sides, I can't really help you out, but I'm going to give a shout out to EOS Canada, and they have been producing great videos on YouTube, short and explaining more in the technical details about BP's block production, mainnet launch, stuff like that. So you can check that out.
Yeah, I see that there's a lot of the apps that are going to be running on EOS are actually tools for the building and understanding and how to develop something on EOS. So there's going to be a lot of support here. And it is a community where everybody's helping each other out. And I think once somebody has studied this as much as you guys have, and as much as you have, you understand how valuable a platform this is, and that this just isn't another deal. This is really something that can change stuff.
And you know what? Like, I've been talking to a lot of EOS fans in the last few weeks, and some of them don't even know what EOS can do. They're already fans from the little they do know. And then I explain things like the 15% unlock, the sidechains. And like you said, these sidechains are going to allow for quick scaling, right? So we launch in June, 5,000 transactions per second on the mainnet, which is more than any other blockchain available out there right now. But other companies are like, actually, I need 5,000 transactions a second myself. I'm going to launch a sidechain. So right away, we're up to now 10,000 transactions per second, right? So as demand grows, it's going to be able to scale through the sidechains, let alone the parallel implementation of the nodes that is going to happen on EOS that's going to allow each network to scale to 100,000 transactions per second or more.
And I think that's important that people who are watching this understand that. So how many transactions is Ethereum doing right now? Currently the #2 blockchain in the world.
I think they're around 15 transactions per second.
So you're going to go from 15, 20 transactions maybe to 5,000.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's a big jump. It's a big jump. That's why people say EOS is a 3rd generation blockchain, and it's the first 3rd generation blockchain to go live. Cardano is another one that's considered as a 3rd generation blockchain that's going to have a lot of scaling, but they're not ready to launch yet. So it is pretty exciting. And originally, Dan Larimer was building to release EOS parallel from the start instead of a single throughput that we're going to release right now. But there's no point in having 50,000 transactions per second on a blockchain right now because there's no demand. So obviously, there's a level of complexity for them to implement that. So they chose to just release single throughput like Ethereum, like most of the networks. But the way the network is designed, we're going to be running at 5,000 transactions per second, which is being confirmed on the test nets right now that people are running.
Yeah, I made a video about this the other night, and I really kind of, when you think about the future, how these parallel chains can start running and intercommunicate with the main chain, you could literally take up so much content. It could really just absorb all the content, all over the world. I mean, it's just so amazing.
It really could. It really could. And then that's why it's important to hold these Genesis private keys yourself. Binance will do the swap for you, so you don't have to register your wallet. You leave your EOS ERC20 tokens on Binance. On June 2nd, they're going to credit you those EOS mainnet tokens. They've said they're going to do that, and Binance have been really good. However, are they going to credit you the sidechains? Are they going to credit you potential airdrops that are going to be airdropped to those Genesis token holders? They haven't confirmed that yet, because also it's a lot of unknowns right now. So it's understandable that they haven't confirmed that yet. But that's why I'm personally holding my own private key that I've generated for my registered wallet. And then I plan on holding that very preciously safeguarded. And then hopefully that's going to give me the balance of my tokens on many other sidechains. And then we could also talk about EOS DC, which is the way that Block 1 has structured their ICO. So Block 1 was financed privately so that they have enough runway to build EOS.io this year. While they're building EOS.io, they announced that they were doing the ICO. So every day there's a new period, and then this ICO period finishes at the end of this month when the mainnet goes live. They've raised over $1 billion doing this so far, and all that money is going to be spent on developing apps on the network of EOS. So what might happen is that if you're a new company, you want to launch an ICO on EOS, you apply to the EOS VC fund, then Larimer, and friends, they check out your project, they think it's good. They're going to finance your ICO completely. So you're looking to raise 20 million, they buy out the full 20 million, and then they distribute your tokens to the Genesis distribution. So holding that Genesis distribution key is also going to give you access to the $1 billion of ICO money that's been accumulated that is going to be spent on building apps on EOS. So on top of the sidechains, you've got potential ICO as well that you're going to receive. So I think it's pretty important that people hold these EOS private keys, on June 1st. And then most people do not understand this, even if they know EOS, even if they're fans of it. So this month, I think people are going to learn about all these things, and it's going to make them realize, like, oh my God, I need some Genesis tokens, right? Like yesterday in Montreal, we attended an event called Salon de la Crypto, and we had a booth there. And we were talking about EOS and EOS Nation to people. And this one guy, he's like, oh yeah, I like EOS, I've got some. And then a lot of people told me that, and then I told them they needed to register, and they're like, oh, I didn't know. That's pretty scary. But some other guys, like, he knew a bit, he wanted to learn more, and then I explained to him the 15% unlock and the sidechain, and then his eyes just popped wide open, and I knew, like, this guy just got it. And then he understood the potential, of holding these Genesis tokens.
Yeah, that's the thing I try to get across, is the potential here is unparalleled, unfathomable. It's something that we don't even understand how big this can get. And to be able to have a stake in that platform when it's unknown what it can be, and that is really exciting. And then we've got 2 weeks before the tokens are done, and you can't buy them anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly. You can't. Well, you're going to be able to buy them once the mainnet launches, right? But if you're buying tokens on the mainnet on June 10th, for example, that key is not going to be a Genesis token key, right? So you're not going to have access to sidechain tokens with that balance, unless those sidechains choose to start with a current EOS snapshot, right? Which we don't know if they're going to do. I imagine that might happen later on, like in a year or two. Maybe at that point, they're going to want to respect more the mainnet distribution than the Genesis distribution. But all of that, it's really speculation. Who knows how it's all going to play out? But it's definitely pretty exciting. I try to not get too excited about things, because if you let your emotions get involved, good or bad, it's going to influence the quality of your decisions, right? So when you're investing, or, I've played a lot of poker strategically and profitably, and, it's very important to not let your emotions get involved. So with EOS Nation, we're working very hard, but it's completely unknown if we have a chance or not at getting elected. There's no current rankings that we can see, like, oh, are we good? Are we doing good or bad? We have no idea, but we feel like we're pretty known. We've been doing a good job. We're enjoying ourselves every day. It's super exciting. So my strategy of not getting excited is every day is getting harder and harder to stay by, because and then we're getting contacted by a lot of people. Media outlets want to talk to us. A lot of Asian VPs are sending out invites. They'll be like, hey, we'd love to have English speakers at our events. You guys want to come? So that's what prompted us to really have a talk, like, hey, can we send one of our guys out there? And Eve is just the perfect candidate to send. He's lived 6 years in Japan. He's married a Japanese woman, and they spent their honeymoon traveling China for 2 months. So he's excited to go back, and I'm sure everyone is gonna get along great. And our networks are multiplying, our reach is multiplying. Pretty exciting times right now.
So if you guys get in and, you know, say 2-3 months from now, are we going to be able to expect to hear from you after after you guys are block producers? Are you guys going to stay in touch with the community? And
Of course. Right now we're paying to stay in touch with the community. In 3 months, hopefully I'm going to get a salary, and then my job is going to be to just talk to channels and go to meetups and go to conferences. You know, we are attending a Tulip conference, the Tulip conference in San Francisco in early June. I think that name is amazing. And you know, right now we're paying for our own flights, our own hotels, but we think it's a great investment of our time and money because we know people know about us, and you know, we want to go meet the other VPs as well. We want to keep being known. So definitely, once we're elected, you're going to hear more about us because we got 4 guys with jobs that can't wait to just talk EOS all day, every day, right? So.
Yeah, if you're doing it now without pay, you'll be even more active when you get pay. That's
right. That's right. Exactly. And the incentive structure is there to motivate us to keep going. Because if we just like throw our feet up and chill on as of June, then we're gonna lose ranking because other block producers are gonna be known and they're gonna be accumulating more votes, right? So my girlfriend, you know, she's cheering for EOS Nation, and she doesn't really know too much about blockchain or crypto, but so she was explaining, she's like, you know, to her friend, she's like, oh, I can't wait for June 2nd, you know, we're gonna know if we won or not. And then I had to stop her. I was like, no, we know if we get to play the game on June 2nd. This is just a warm-up right now. Like, the real game starts on June 2nd, you know. And then I told her, I'm like, listen, I think I might be traveling a bit more than I had planned over the next coming months, right? So, but she's, you know, she's super good. She's super supportive, so that's great.
Yeah, did we have anything else?
I don't know. I mean, we've been on for quite a while. I suppose I'm going to let you go. So
yeah, we said we'd try to keep it short. But I know that's going to be very hard because
it's hard to do with EOS. There's so much.
Yeah, it's hard to do with EOS.
Cool, exciting project. It's really, you know, it's easy to talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. And we got a lot more to talk about. So I'm sure we'll do some more videos in the future. If you guys have questions, the viewers, make sure to leave them down there. If there's some questions that come up, you know, I'll be happy to come back on and answer those questions.
Yeah. And then why don't you, I don't know if we've had a chance to do this, but before we let you go, why don't you tell everybody where they could find you at, how they can stay connected to EOS Nation?
For sure. So our website is eosnation.io. You can find out all the information on there. I think it's very important for people to subscribe to our newsletter because we're going to be sending out reminders for registering tokens, sending out all the important stuff you need to know, moving on up to mainnet launch and afterwards. And then you can find us on Facebook, EOS Nation BP, and we also have a Telegram group that you can join and talk with the founders. And you know, we're all pretty available, and we love answering questions from you guys.
What's the Telegram? Is it at EOS Nation?
Yes.
Telegram.
Link. Yes. Pretty sure.
Yeah, if you email me those links, I'll put it in the video description.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's at EOS Nation for the Telegram group.
Okay, great. So I guess we'll be signing off, but we really appreciate your time.
Thanks.
I appreciate you connecting up with me, and we wish you guys all the luck. I mean, we'll be behind you, and I think everybody else should be too, because you're solid. I think you're real solid.
Thanks. We appreciate it.
Good environment, and you got good motives, and you understand the project. So, like I said, I certainly would.
And I'd like to thank Dan Larimer for setting all of this up for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're all, you know, 100% behind you guys. And we think you make great block producers. So we'll stay in touch, and we'll definitely be talking with you a little bit later.
All right. Good chat, guys. Have a good one.
Okay, bye.